Hi, in this short practice, we will work on establishing a perspective dedicated to the common good. So what does that mean? A perspective dedicated to the common good is a perspective based on the perception of similarities between myself and others. In his book, The Fearless Heart, A Fearless Heart, Thupten Jinpa uses this phrase, power of perceived similarity. So that really underlies what is a foundational component of the compassion cultivation process, a perception of common humanity, which is based on a perception of perceived similarity between myself and others. And why is this important? Well, in a nutshell, often what we do is really go through the world making decisions, having emotional reactions, etc., based on our assumptions of ourself and other, which are largely based on labels and projections that we attribute to others. And this includes myself as well. I may have a bunch of labels about myself, and these in turn affect my perceptions of myself, which affect the emotional responses to myself, etc. And we do this to others as well. And often this is really based on perceived differences. I often quickly, or it may be a human default in the modern world at least, to quickly evaluate others in terms of their differences from me. So to see myself as an individual apart from other individuals, or perceived similarity would be when I'm perceiving others in the context of the labels, therefore making an in-group and an out-group. Perceived similarity, as we're discussing in this practice, is at a deeper level. It's at a foundational level or perceptual level. So we're really cultivating a perception that others are just like us in some basic human aspirations, values, etc. This really goes against the grain of what many of us have come to believe, either explicitly or implicitly. In a culture dedicated to materialism, for instance, many of us have adopted worldviews that cater to the idea, for instance, of survival of the fittest. And this really goes against that. And in fact, there are some recent studies, a body of evidence developing and building that really gives credence to this idea that human default is at the first instance one of cooperation and helping others. And that's really what we're cultivating here. So in this short practice, we will work on cultivating an attitude dedicated to the common good. So just take a few minutes and settle into your body, into your posture. And engage in 2 or 3 minutes of mindfulness of breathing. Allow your mind to gently and loosely follow the sensations of the breathing as you breathe in and out. While at the same time maintaining a quality of attentiveness and cognizance. And now bring to mind or imagine someone who in your life has been very kind to you, shown you kindness. And bring this individual to mind. And remember or experience this time when they demonstrated to you kindness. and cultivate a sense of what it feels like to be treated with kindness. And now imagine that this person who treated you with kindness is in some ways experiencing some difficulty. And send out messages of compassion to that person. And maybe recite in your mind for that individual, may you be free from suffering. May you know happiness. And imagine that your compassion is going out and meeting your loved one, the person who's been kind to you. And now bring to mind or imagine a person that you recognize perhaps but don't know well. Someone that you don't have either positive or negative responses or reactions to. Just someone that you might recognize. A neighbor, a coworker, someone you see at the store perhaps. And bring that person to mind. And then consider that just like yourself, and just like your benefactor or the person who's been kind to you, that this acquaintance also has had ups and downs in his or her life. This acquaintance too wants to be loved and valued. Wants to contribute in some way to their community. This acquaintance has important human relationships just like yourself, just like the person who's been kind to you. And then recite in your mind for this person, just like me, he or she wants to be happy and free from suffering. And now expand your awareness to include all those in your community who are there but you don't really notice. You don't really perceive them as part of your group or part of a group maybe that somehow represents an opposite side of things, but they're just there. And just see who comes to mind in your community. And then again, consider that just like yourself, all of these individuals at a core level just want to be happy. At a core level, just like yourself, they don't want to suffer. So again, recite in your mind, just like me, each of us wants to be happy and free from suffering. Just like me, each of us wants to be happy and free from suffering. And just reflect on that for a few moments and see if it rings true for you. We may not understand them, or we may not know them, but see if it rings true that on this basic level, we can assume that it's true, that there's a similarity between myself and them. And then based on this similarity, there's grounds really for understanding them on some level. On this basic human level. And now expand your awareness further and perhaps include those in your community who you may have disagreements with or conflicts, might be opposed to in some ways. And then consider that this group is very diverse. There are persons from many backgrounds, many beliefs, etc. And then consider again, just like myself, just like yourself, each of these individuals wants to be loved and valued. Each of these individuals has had ups and downs in his or her life. Each of these individuals has important relationships, goals, dreams, aspirations. Just like yourself, just like those who have been kind to you, each person has this fundamental desire to be happy and free from suffering. And again, recite in your mind, just like me, each of us wants to be happy and free from suffering. Just like me, each of us wants to be happy and free from suffering. And also consider that this belief really doesn't mean you have to feel compassion for others or feel any particular way toward others. But it is based on this basic recognition, perception of the similarity between self and others. Now expand your awareness as wide as you would like for it to go. To include anyone you would like to include. And again recite, just like me, each of us wants to be happy and free from suffering. Just like me, each of us wants to be happy and free from suffering. Now, if you would like, make an aspiration, perhaps that we as a culture, as a society, are able to make decisions for the common good in a civil manner. Whatever an aspiration might mean to you. Consider making an aspiration right now. And then develop an intent, a concrete intent of something that you can do concretely and soon, immediately, to somehow foster this perspective of the common good. And now as we bring this practice to a close, simply come back to your breathing. And then be aware of your surroundings. And then try to bring this perspective into your daily life in some way, this perspective of the common good, which is really ultimately just based on this respect for the common humanity of other people that we interact with and that are in our community. All right, that brings this practice to a close. Peace.